Congratulations. And we are live. And the millions are pouring in. The millions of people are pouring in as we speak. We've had Mr.
Testing.
Bongo. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. You're actually, when you leaned in like that, your audio is phenomenal.
Just got to.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
I'll give you the feedback.
Yeah.
Now, no. Now, further. Yes, perfect.
Right. Is that better? But I'm really low on the screen now. Hang on.
Now, not good. Not good. Yeah.
Okay. Is that better? Right.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know how you've got to stay.
I know how
you've got to stay stapled with your mouth to this big black slog. It's just literally uncomfortably close. It's like the Pink Floyd, a spin on the Pink Floyd song, uncomfortably numb.
Yours seems to be working better further away. Maybe yours is. I don't know. Maybe yours.
I'm pretty close. I mean, I'm. Look, can you see me? I
can't really see the mic though.
I blurred him. That's why I've Svengali'd it. I've done the old line. It's from the wardrobe we've seen.
I wonder if I should get one of those big muffs.
They went out of fashion in the 90s. We've been through this.
That might be
all hairless. It's quite funny, the pornification of the modern world, though. When you travel around, it's very rare.
Yeah.
If you get intimate with a girl to find any body hair in the nether regions, like the only thing possibly is if it's accidental, right? But they haven't waxed or whatever. But yeah, it's the pornification of the modern world means there's not a single bit of hair in the remit anymore. Not that I'm complaining. I was never a fan of hair.
Yeah, indeed. Well, did you ever see that?
Or body hair on men, actually, as our friend Stavros would show on his photos. Not centre body hair on him either.
No, absolutely not. And a good thing too, I think. Didn't we have to shave? We had to shave one of our clients, didn't we, in order to not be too.
Yeah, but it wasn't like literally like a barnyard ritual of like at midnight. We sacrifice a chicken and then I come out with the shears and literally shave him and he's purring like a walrus. It was we set him for a whack. But what was good banter is he's quite a hairy guy, so Asian. We'll say just Indian heritage.
Yeah,
never really considered the looks maxing version of things. Are you bringing him up on screen? Oh, okay. I thought you might be dumping him in at Mr. Wigfield. Anyway,
no.
Quite a hairy individual to the point of just needed a bit of grooming. So I booked him in on his behalf in Warsaw when he was with our coach Lawrence of Arabia for a day game weekend. And yeah, he was fully waxed from head to toe. Obviously kept his eyebrows there. But for banter, I booked him in for calves as well. So he had all of his upper body done, and then for no reason at all had his calves waxed. He was like, James, the calf thing was interesting. What do women look at your calves much? And I was like, don't worry about
it. It's really important. It's the calves are the key to the soul. So,
yes.
So the stream today is basically about money, I'm afraid. So it's women are saying this out loud now. If you're broke, you're invisible. So we're going to get into that. We've got some key points to go through. And everything else. Quite an interesting one, this. And the reason that I chose this topic today was because I went through X and I was looking at the top trending posts on X that relate to sort of men's dating, men's challenges in the dating marketplace. And I wasn't necessarily expecting this, but the two ones that came up as being the most, having had the most views and the most likes were related to money in some shape or form. I can read them out, actually. So the first one, this got over 4 million views, nearly 5 million views. And this was actually a girl. And it said, I dated a broke man once. For my birthday, he didn't have any money to do anything with or for me. So I went out with my best friend with my own money and we had a great time. The whole day, the boyfriend kept FaceTiming me from a dark room, talking about, so you just gonna leave me here? Never again. That's what the girl says. So you can imagine the guy in his dank, dark bedroom texting her like, oh, you're just going to leave me here. Oh. But, and that obviously got a lot of replies. It got a lot of retweets and all that kind of stuff. And it's sort of, you can tell why, because it really gets into the pain points that guys have, doesn't it? Because, basically there's this woman saying, oh, the guy was broke, so I just went out on my own. And then she kind of laughs at him for being upset in the darkened room. But I guess you could kind of see it from her point of view, can't you?
So, broke as in how broke are we talking?
Well, I don't know with that one, but this one here, There's another one, the second most popular one. So this had about 5 million as well views. It says, my cousin just turned down a monthly proposal because the guy earns 250k a year and she earns 480k. I mean, this is obviously quite, these guys are kind of balling it, but whatever. Her words, I don't want to start explaining every financial decision for the rest of my life. Now the whole family is calling her proud. Lol. So that one speaks more to the sort of imbalance of pay, because she's earning nearly double what he's earning. So she basically doesn't want to marry him. And that's another big problem that's, I think, is happening in the Anglosphere, where because women are earning good salaries and outperforming guys in many cases, they don't really just want to settle for just the average dude who's got less cash, right? For the most part.
Yes, and we've got a comment here from Adriana Zolo 2688 saying, "Why would a woman want a broke man?" I kind of agree, actually. I think a relationship, if the woman is out earning the man, is
well,
is it going to work? Is it going to work long term?
I mean, well, that is the question. That is the question, really. And like I was saying before this stream began, I mean, because one of the reasons for doing this is because there's a lot of people related to the old day game ideal who still believe that money's got nothing to do with any of this, and in fact, any use of money in a dating context is kind of beta, and you're kind of falling into provider frame, and you should just learn the model better, the London day game model better, and then you're just going to organically attract these women. But we wanted to inject a little bit of reality into this, because of course your banter, the way you come across, it is super important for sure. But let's just be real here. I mean, women have certain aspirations for the most part, and they've got massive comparison ability now with the apps, with Instagram. So they can see these other dudes living these amazing baller lifestyles, and then you turn up with your day game backpack on and your sandwiches that you made, your egg sandwiches that you made at home before your day game session, and you're like, "Hey, you're all right, love. All right, do you want to come fancy a pint of mild in the Argyle?" And it's just like, I mean, yeah, she might like you. She might think she might just physically like you. She might be horny, whatever. But I mean, it just doesn't really fly in 2026 anymore, does it?
Right. We've got some also follow-up comments from Adriana. We women need security. We thrive on our femininity when a man provides. I don't think providers are beta.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got what appears to be a real life woman. Biological woman, I assume, on the stream. So
there's many layers to this, and it's not clear cut, obviously, but ultimately you should be earning societal credits, i.e. to play with, i.e. money, anyway, as a man, regardless of whether you're dating or not. You should be able to do what you fucking want within reason. And if you can't do that, and I think let's trace this back to the origins of at least relevance to where I got this idea from. Because I went down the Torero school of thought, stupidly, blindly followed him, actually, with a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff he was on point with, but some stuff he absolutely wasn't on point with, because he didn't have much money. And what he used to say was money was a DLV, a demonstration of lower value, right?
Yeah.
And it's not true. It's absolutely not true, right? He was traveling around a camper van, broke. He was making that work. And unfortunately, then he reinvented some concepts to suit that lifestyle. But if he was being really objective about it, he would have probably admitted that, I mean, of course, money isn't beta. You can be, absolutely. We know rich guys who have a beta attitude to life. They're very successful in business and can't pull a muscle. And get run rings bound by women because they don't know what they're up to. They've got no X factor. They've got no edge. And also, they date women, they attract women with wealth, and women absolutely run rings around them. They know more of this kind of cliche of this gold digger. We also know guys who don't have much money and they're very fucking alpha and they get laid a lot. The sweet spot is probably somewhere in between, where you can do what the fuck you want. Remember, money is just societal credits. How close to society, to reality, are you living, and how good are you at solving random problems in society? That gets rewarded with money. It can be anything, right? So would you agree with that? Somewhere in the middle, where you actually have money to play with, but you're not leading with it?
Yes, I would. But we seem to have both disappeared from the screen, which is a little bit.
Oh no, I can see myself on the screen.
Oh, I can't see myself. That's probably a good thing, though, to be honest. That's
weird. You can't see yourself.
It's just gone black. The screen's gone totally black.
Floating in the ether. You could always leave the studio and come back in.
All right, I'll try that. Hold on a minute.
And now I'm left, Han Solo, the floating head in orbit, drinking my... Anyone? Any guesses? My peachy, sugar-free monster, the cheat code, may I add, if you want a morning caffeine hit and you can't be asked to go to the coffee shop, and or you do not want to stain your fangs, your teeth black. We have a returning blob. Mr. Francis is back in the house without his comfort notes.
That's better.
There he is.
Yeah.
The old dog has some new tricks. There we go.
The
old dog has some new tricks.
Well, let's maybe let's get into some of these points, then we can talk through this as we go through. And like we said, look, this isn't clear cut. So we're not trying to do this stream to say, right, so the only person who's getting any action here is a multi-millionaire with a Bugatti. I mean, that's not what we're saying. I mean, the point I was going to make though before that is, of course, the Tom Torero school of thought, the figure that really blew all that out of the water and who ultimately went on to become a much larger cultural figure was Andrew Tate. Now, love him or hate him, say what you like about Andrew Tate, but he completely blew all of that out of the water, didn't he? Like, absolutely obliterated all of that, because you had a guy who was, many would argue, the epitome, really. I mean, quite sure, the epitome of alphaness, in the sense that, you know, he'd been he did martial arts, he'd been a fighter, he was, you know, he was jacked, obviously very sort of masculine attitude, and he was loaded as well. And his argument, which completely obliterated all of these buffoons, was, yeah, you need everything, you know, and that's still his argument. Now, people, and it's interesting, isn't it, that one of the purists that we know, who still harks back to the old, you know, 2012 ideal, absolutely despises Andrew Tate.
Really?
Wonder why that? Well, no, you know, he's like, oh, I hate these manosphere people. Why might that be? Because they're saying something that he finds uncomfortable to his philosophy, right? He doesn't like the fact that they're pointing out something that he hasn't attained or doesn't seek to attain, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've had some time back in the day with Tristan Tate, and he made the point, which is true, which is women don't really care about your bank balance. They care about what you can provide experience-wise, right?
Yeah.
Can you just take a holiday randomly? Yeah, can you just randomly take a holiday to a Greek island without worrying about the cost? Could you book business class? These aren't essentials, right? But it's just quite nice to be able to do shit in life. If you treat yourself as the playable character in the world map, right? And it's all a bit of a game, including earning money. We're not saying you need billions in the bank, but shouldn't you be able to not look at a fucking restaurant bill? Shouldn't you be able to stay in a decent hotel if you need to? And again, I think the long-term thing, just the point I'm going to make on this before we go into your points, is ultimately the life cycle with this, a lot of guys follow, you don't have to, but they do, is they end up having a family, having kids. Now, presumably you want to live a reasonably comfortable life so you can provide for the family, and that maybe would include a decent education, a house in a decent area. These are essentials you need for your family. So then we put it back to the masculine ideal of, can you actually provide for those who you actually give a fuck about, right? If you can't, and you give them a shitty life, that's kind of on you, right? And then we can get into debates about, but even if you were rich like Gordon Ramsay, do you do that thing of just not give them any money? Possibly, yeah, because you want to train good character or incentivize. Same as Tony Robbins. He said he makes them earn their thing based on good behavior, or they've got to go and get a job, and he'll supplement the job's income with his own income on top of the job. But you ultimately still need money, right? Society, unfortunately or fortunately, it runs on money. And it's a dirty word. People don't like talking about it, especially the kind of game purists who go, it's all about game or it's all about looks. It's not. Like, money makes the world go round. It is important. If you have issues around it, a lot of guys have sexual shame. I'd say they also have money shame as well, you know, and I'd say it's important to just resolve those things internally and realize, unfortunately, money is a part of society. It's not going to buy happiness, but it is going to buy a lot of good stuff and good experiences.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into the point. So point number one, why we're talking about this? Well, the conversation's suddenly everywhere. So the viral post that I read out about women refusing broke men are not isolated. They're reaching millions of views because they touch a nerve. Social media is acting like a diagnostic machine, revealing anxieties that have been quietly building for years. Okay, so that's the first thing. Number two, the dating market has become more economically stratified. So in most cities today, lifestyle has become tightly linked to income, where you go, what you do, the environments you inhabit. Dating increasingly takes place inside these lifestyle economies, and money quietly shapes access to them. So, as an example, in London, if you go into, say, you go into Mayfair on a Friday night, Saturday night, which I often do actually, you will see a lot of extremely attractive women around. You will also see a lot of blokes with very expensive cars, going into private nightclubs, going into, high-end restaurants, etc., etc. It's not a coincidence, is it? Women are drawn to those environments. And, if you're not, now, I'm not saying, okay, just drop everything, rob a bank, and then go out in Mayfair, and that's the way to get some action. But, just being completely honest about it, if you're looking for some of the higher end women in London, and this is just talking about this city, I mean, it's anywhere really in the world, where are they going to congregate? Where are they going to go? Well, they're going to go, for the most part, to these more high-end areas. Well, who has access to those areas? Kind of the guys with money, right? And, I always talk about this because when I walk through Mayfair, there's a lot of like Lambos and things like that parked in the street, and the guys are obviously in the bars, in the hotels around there, and whatever. And all of this argument about, well, money's got nothing to do with it, the game. Well, these guys have probably never watched a game video in their fucking lives, They probably know absolutely nothing of this stuff. But the things that they are doing, the cars that they have, the lifestyle they have, the places they go, is succeeding in drawing women to them. So, you can sit there with your day game blog and rant about it until you're blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, reality is simply proving you wrong, right? Because what's actually happening in cities all across the world, women are congregating in the place where the higher earners are. That's just a fact.
So what's the applicable point from that? What we're saying, you have to buy a Lambo and have it.
Yeah, you've got to buy a Lambo. You've got to.
I always thought O'Neill's in Argyle Street that was a hotspot of pussy. So you've really shattered my world there, thinking that you can't stand there with a pint and Yuki Brad and just get on with it.
If you're into toothless women on a weekend trip from Wigan, then absolutely.
Couple of teeth between them. I mean, look, it's all perspective, isn't it?
I come down London once a year. It's fucking great down here. Oh, we're going to see the Michael Jackson musical, then go to fucking O'Neill's.
O'Neill's. I've to be fair, it was I've had many a good time in O'Neill's, and there's nothing bad to say about O'Neill's. It's kind of the McDonald's of. I know the McDonald's of pubs would be kind of a Yates, wouldn't it, or a Wetherspoons?
As High Value Men, should we really be taking women to Wetherspoons and Greg's for Nuki Brown?
There's nothing wrong with a steak bake. The British Empire was not built on steak bakes, but it was built on Fray Bentos tinned steak and kidney pies, which are quite similar.
In my personal life, I don't mind a Greg's.
What would you go for? What's your go-to? Top two items.
We discussed this already. The sausage
roll.
But
for the viewers watching, the millions watching around the world who might miss that segment.
Okay, all right. The sausage rolls, the meat sausage rolls.
Controversial.
Well, yeah, but okay. And the steak bake. Maybe the chicken bake. I really like as well.
What about something sweet? If you're going to go sweet tooth, what would you do?
They do a great Belgian bun, which is one of those ice buns with a cherry on the top.
Does it come with a free paedophile or?
No, it's just a bun with loads of it's got like thick icing on it and then like a cherry on top. It's really good.
Very tasty. Oh, that icing is Moorish, isn't it? And coffee, how's the coffee quality?
I mean, Jesus Christ, Tom Anderson. What are we even doing here, Tom Anderson? 1 minute you say we need Lambos, then next take women to Greg. Surely they're contradictory.
Contrast is king, Tom Anderson. Contrast is king.
Anderson,
and even
Thomas Anderson, have you ever heard of a joke? Do you understand humor? If you're having trouble with dating, this post reveals largely what the fucking problem is. So, Tom Anderson, I would advise you to sit back and just listen and recognize that sometimes maybe we might be saying something because it's sort of humorous. I know this is a groundbreaking concept, right? Maybe you've never heard of this before, but sometimes we say things that are a bit exaggerated to have a laugh.
Also, there's nothing wrong with being sat in a really expensive sports car and eating something quite cheap, like the American fucking country, the USA was built on McDonald's double cheeseburgers, eaten in expensive cars. So nothing wrong with that. But just the final point to make on
Yeah.
the point you made, yes, women are attracted to good shit. If I go out to parties here, in where I was in Floripa or Sao Paulo, what happens is the blokes are paying about 200 quid to get in. The women aren't really paying. They're paying a menial fee, maybe the equivalent of 10 quid. What it means is the ratios are skewed in the guy's favor, 70% women, 30% men. And also you're pre-vetted because you've got a bit of money. So the women are automatically incredibly friendly because they're thinking, right, this guy's got a bit of money. He's paid to get in here. And you'd be surprised, it's just, look, wherever you go, women want to be with a guy who succeeds. And a way of showing that success can be through winning societal credits and being able to spend them, i.e. money. We're not saying it solves all problems because we know plenty of rich guys who really, they cannot pull a muscle. They've had multiple divorces. They've had their ex-wives take a load of money and they're fucking clueless, right?
Yes.
You've got to develop an edge. But a guy, this kind of Chateau Heartiste would love writing articles about this type of guy, the kind of Wall Street banker who's a bit dark triad.
Yeah.
But also like a bit of a baller. That is the character that does very well because he combines finance, he combines money earning ability with understanding of how women work and the fact they're attracted to it of an edge and they can give them experience. And those kind of guys kill it. And I know a number of those guys, and they don't sit around reading game blogs or watching us, but they're just out in the field, just making it happen. Right?
Well, that was like the guy who amogged me in the bar in Canary Wharf.
Yes, tell that story for the millions watching who may have missed that episode.
Let's tell this.
Go on, I love this story. I love.
All right, I'll try and keep it short because we got to get through these fucking points, or we'll be here for 3 days. True, but basically, I was in Canary Wharf. I was on a. Here we go. This was not the guy, but it could have been. I was in Canary Wharf, which is where the financial district is in London, financial centre. And I was on a date with this girl from Bumble. I wasn't that into the girl, to be honest, but she was sort of okay. And we were there. We were kind of getting on all right. I did end up kissing, we ended up making out and stuff like that. But I kept noticing her eyes darting to something behind me. And then when we were going to leave the venue, I was obviously I sort of said, we can go back to mine, have a couple of drinks, whatever. She wasn't down for that. It's okay, fine. So we were leaving the venue and we got to the lifts and she said, you know what? I think actually I'm just going to go to the restroom. So you can go down here and I'll see you later. And I was like, well, I can wait for you. And she's like, no, it's fine because I'm going to get a different train anyway and, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I get in the elevator and go down and I'm thinking this is raising some red flags. This is interesting. And I thought, I just want to see what's happened. So I take the escalator all the way down. And then I get the next escalator and just come back all the way back up to the bar. It's like a rooftop bar or something. And I walk through the bar. And sure enough, the girl that I was with was now sitting with this other dude who she'd been eyeing up all evening in the bar. And he was exactly like the kind of bloke that you describe. He was like a banker, because everyone's a banker in that environment, in that area. He was in a suit, or at least he had the suit trousers and the shirt on. But he had this very dark triad. I suspect he was probably on some Charlie or whatever. He had this very dark triad kind of sort of alpha look about him. And he basically won the game. He'd taken the girl,
How did it to channel your inner silk? How did it feel?
Well, I mean, I had mixed feelings because, like I said, I'm not saying this is a cope. I genuinely wasn't super bothered about the girl. So there was that. But of course, it's a sting. It's a blow to the ego. It stings your pride. Definitely, it's
the ego more than anything. The reason it would hurt way more if it was a girl you're really into.
Yeah, I think. But the reason I wanted to go back and look, it was almost because it was almost like the doomers who watch our streams and then don't take any action. Like they want to just wallow. Somebody put a comment saying I just like wallowing in the doom. It was almost like that because I kind of knew what had happened because I saw her keep looking back at this guy. I'd looked over at the guy. He'd been giving
on a gut instinct. We know, don't we?
I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to see the full horror, the full cruelty of the dating marketplace in its rawest form. And I did. And it was weird because I did feel like those feelings of like the ego loss and everything. But there was also a weird satisfaction in it as well. Do you know what I mean?
Really? What's the satisfaction part?
In the sense of I've seen how far this rabbit hole goes.
Did you then go back and play a bit of Lana Del Rey and kind of like stare out the window wistfully, smoking a cigarette for days on end?
No, no. Honestly, seriously, I know this is going to sound like a cope, but I wasn't super bothered. I was just like, right, well, I'm never going to speak to her again, and then that was it. But you know, I mean, it is what it is.
It's way. Look, I've been in situations, and I've been the guy who's stolen women in bars and clubs, and I've been the guy who's had women stolen off me. And
So Bongo,
it hurts way more when it's someone you're actually into, and I've had that, so I can attest. I've had painful scenarios.
that banker Amorg Troy and took her for a Greg steak bake and then a sausage roll in the alley behind the shop.
Oi, Neil Michaels, boy.
Bongo makes a good point here. I think someone made this last time. I feel like when you're not really into the girl and just playing along, they sense it and lose interest. I think there might be something in that. I think there 100%. Might be. Yeah.
But we have it with a current client, right? We have it with a current client who's dating a girl as a holding pattern in where he lives, you know, between kind of going back out to LATAM. And she's like kind of fucking around, like she's mucking around a bit. She's withdrawn. Yeah. Women are not stupid. They absolutely sense if you're not fully in.
Well, Brandon, like Brandon Apocalypse Now repeat the horror.
I need to rewatch that. Actually, it's a great on my nostalgia rewatch list.
So Bongo's saying you probably weren't trying that hard, and look, I think there is something in that. I think there is something in this. I wasn't really that into it. She probably did sense that, whatever. But look, I have to be completely honest here, guys. In that specific incident, I was a bit outclassed by this guy. Not because he was necessarily like super better looking than me or anything. It's just that I'd looked back at him a couple of times, and he had that very strong. Just the look in his eyes, that very strong dark triad alpha kind of
self-belief, just high levels of self-belief.
Yeah, and I think he was it was probably cocaine based, but it was sort of he was playing at a level that I just wasn't able to reach on that particular date at that time. You know,
I mean, this is the fear all men have really of taking their girlfriend, say, a gig where, I mean, Les tells the story where he took his ex to, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's got a very deep voice. He's quite a mainstream singer. And he said the whole crowd, Les got really jealous because the whole crowd, it was mainly women, were just basically getting wet when this guy was singing with a really deep voice. And Les was incredibly pissed off because it's just like, you know, if the guy kind of demanded, if for some reason the spotlight had fallen on his girlfriend, Les's girlfriend at the time, and he'd been like, "Oh, come backstage," there's a strong likelihood. So it's almost like you've lost the girl because she's around the celebrity aura. And this is the uncomfortable truth as men we have to deal with. There's always going to be a guy, in my opinion, who could at the right time steal your girl. Yeah. And the only way to really get past that is you've got to detach and just relentlessly try and play your own game, as you talk about mental point of origin, max out your stats. And also just accept that at any time the girl can walk, and that's okay, and not being attached to that, and cultivating other options.
Or just never get into relationships like us, and then you don't really have
or date women that just don't have exposure to this world. One of my exes was absolutely exposed to this world. She wrote celebrity column in a magazine in the UK, and she had constant free 5-star hotel stays. She was constantly interviewing celebrities, and they're hitting on her. So it's obviously that's going to end in blood, sweat, and fucking tears, isn't it, for me? And it did. It was surprisingly. So it's about the world she has access to as well, right? And this is why, again, we say try and date. It's a cliche, the Madonna Hall, kind of cliche, but try and date good girls if they do still exist and they don't have an OnlyFans, as rare as that may be now in the modern world. Bonnie Blue, don't date Bonnie Blue, basically.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get through some of these points because so number 3, this is important. So women have always selected upwards. From an evolutionary psychology standpoint, hypergamy is hardly controversial. Women historically have selected men who demonstrated competence, resources, or status because those traits signal survival and stability. Modern society may have changed many things, but instincts rarely update overnight. So again, it kind of gives the lie to the whole, oh, well, just buy a van and just say some cool lines and wear some H&M jeans and you'll be cool. It kind of puts the lie to all of that because the reality outside of the weird dating advice bubble that you're in online is that it's extremely well known that women have always dated upwards, right? So again, you know, money, or at least the appearance of money, and we talk about competence in a minute, but it's just a no-brainer, isn't it? And it's kind of crazy how people fell for this sort of, and we did as well, fell for this kind of notion which is completely against how human nature actually works.
And completely. And look, even us in suits, we often we like a well-tailored suit, right? We'll cruise around Warsaw wearing that. Even that triggers women to give us more of the time of day. The reactions are better because they associate suits with power, with money. Now, we're not faking it. We do earn okay, right? But it's maximizing that impression of power and status that's associated.
Yeah, and we had a client, didn't we, a while back in Poland, I think, who showed up, and he was like nearly 40, I think, and he shows up wearing a sort of like some kind of band T-shirt, like a Limp Bizkit T-shirt or something, and a pair of like ripped jeans and stuff, and scruff trainers, and sort of slightly scruffy hair and everything. And it's like, well, and interestingly, he kept asking us questions about these old game people, like, oh, do you watch Ed Game, or oh, you know, what was Torero? What's Krauser really like? You know, and all that kind of question that people always ask you. And it's like, you're in Warsaw, right? The economy's going really, really well over there. You've got some very elegant, very upscale women there. Certainly the really beautiful ones that you probably want to interact with. Do you really think like dressing like a fucking 15-year-old emo kid from 2001 is really going to cut the mustard with the top tier girls in Warsaw? Honestly, even if you've got brilliant game, even if you can spit brilliant lines and you can do the cube really well, is it going to override the fact that you look like some weird frat boy, you know, who's really into sort of Avril Lavigne? It's just not congruent with reality, is it?
I'm just a skater boy. I mean, she did have some good tunes. I remember my 14-year-old house party days.
Skater Boy is
my happy ending as well. Accidentally sung about Thai massage parlors, and she didn't realize my happy.
Do you remember that clip that you did when we went to that massage parlor in? Sorry, no, we didn't. We went to that a genuine place for massage in Istanbul, and you asked the girl if there were happy endings involved, and we filmed it. It was quite funny.
It was. I do remember that, the good old days. Yeah. So what we're shifting just on that point, we're shifting it slightly and what's the key takeaway? Look as good as possible, because that is associated.
We'll get into. Well, yeah. Basically, present as well as possible. Yeah, recognize. You've got to recognize the realities of the situation, and look, particularly if you want to date, however you term it, you want to date sort of top tier girls. That is to say, elegant, beautiful, well dressed girls who have a certain aspiration about them. I think most people, if they're honest, would probably like to interact with those women. You know, we're not talking about some kind of bottom of the barrel girls who will just take anything. We're looking at I'm not saying Instagram super Botoxed, super filler lipped girls, but just regular sort of elegant, beautiful, nice, interesting girls. They tend to be a bit aspirational. You don't have to be a multi-billionaire, but I mean, just present yourself a little bit in a way that's going to sort of be of interest to them, because she's always thinking in the back of her head, what would it be like if this guy came out? What if my friends met this guy? What if I posted this guy on Instagram? How's it going to look? Do you know what I mean? And particularly if you're, I would say, in your 30s, late 30s, getting into your 40s, you've got to start thinking about this stuff. You've got to look a little bit, just don't look like you're a fucking groupie from 2001 going to a System of a Down concert, Anyway.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So number 4, this is an important one. So money is really a proxy for competence. What women are responding to is not just the bank balance. It's what the bank balance represents: direction, responsibility, ambition, and the ability to function in the real world. A man who can organize his life tends to be attractive. A man drifting through chaos tends not to be. Well, we've coasted on that for a few years, so I'm not entirely sure about that last bit. But I mean, money it's a proxy for competence, isn't it, really?
You're solving societal problems, and whatever they may be, they can be diverse. I mean, we myself, Troy, Les, all the guys who work with, we do a fairly weird job because it's not mainstream, but it's absolutely a need for it, because dating is fucking hard as an Anglosphere man in 2026. So yeah, it's society. You get rewarded by societal credit, societal tokens you can spend in the game of life by doing shit that society needs. And it can be anything, right?
Yes. All right, next point. Economic shifts are intensifying the tension. Women now outperform men in many educational environments and some professions. That creates a new dilemma. If a woman earns well, her pool of men who earn the same or more becomes smaller. So the result is friction, and there's a reasonable chance that this problem is only going to get worse. Economies in many Western countries are already wobbling. We've got AI coming in to threaten large segments of the white-collar workforce. If job security declines while expectations remain the same, the dating market may become even more unforgiving for men who are struggling financially. So if it's bad now, it's probably just going to get worse. the economy just affects this kind of stuff. So I would say, look, we're going to go into some slightly more actionable points about what to do about this later. But I would say, I mean, there's a reason why our erstwhile friend MLD, John Modern Life Dating, would always talk about money, muscles, game, frame. The first one was money. And he was a realist as well, because it's like, look, I mean, you need to think about that side of things. So the job that you're in, how safe is that job realistically? Can you upskill? Is there something else you can do? Could you develop an income stream on the side? Could you develop your own thing and go and do that? You know, you really need to be sort of focusing on these points, I believe.
You've got to create your own reality with this stuff. I remember being in Ukraine the first time I went over there when it was the start of the war, and I was chatting to a guy. He was just sitting at the table, English soldier who was contracted for the Ukraine military, and he'd just been he was on leave because he'd just been shot, and he had a few weeks ago he had a big hole in his chest that was healing. He had a Ukrainian girlfriend. I was sat there kind of sending some of the clients in. And we were chatting over a beer. It was a nice sunny day in Lviv. And he was like, so James, what are you doing? I was like, well, we help guys get better with women. And he was like, well, how much are these guys paying to be here? And I was like, around 3K each pounds. And that was his like double his monthly salary to risk his life every day. So there's no morals in the market. Unfortunately, again, a bit like the sexual market, it's amoral. There's a need for something, you fulfill that need. And you get paid, right? And it's up to you to decide, right, what is my skill set? How can I match that to what society needs? And also hopefully link it in something that puts me in a flow state that I enjoy. Yeah. That's it, right? No one's coming to save you in this remit. And unfortunately, Pythagoras' theorem, the shit we get taught at school, is absolutely not applicable to then going out and earning real world shekels. So take what you will from that. I'm just going to quickly ask for a 1 second pause while I plug my laptop in before it dies. Let me just Svengali that very quickly.
Let me just have a look at
have a look at maybe some of the questions, comments, anything of relevance that's come through.
Third 7715 says, so true. Washing pants in the sink, living in a van is not so true. Washing pants in the sink, living in a van is never going to get beautiful women. Wear a 3-piece suit and hit the gym thrice weekly. This is the behavior of real men. Crushing business. But why 3 times? Why not go every day?
Who is this guy? I like it. I like the cut of his jib. I've got a feeling it's someone we know. It's probably like Les or Joe or someone like that, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Jeez. Do you wash your teeth twice a week?
Yeah, he didn't know what brushing your teeth. It's like, wash your teeth. Do you wash your teeth?
You really wash your teeth? I just ate a kangaroo with my bare hands. Should I wash my teeth? I didn't wash my teeth since last September.
He was flabbergasted that I washed my teeth, as he called it, once at night before sleep. He'd never done that in like 25 years on planet Earth.
Yeah. Okay, right. What's the next point? Right. So the opposite. Sorry. Number 6. The early internet dating advice was naive about this. Around the early 2000s, a lot of advice for men suggested that money didn't matter at all. Just have good game, say the right lines, and everything would fall into place. This was a comforting idea. It was also incredibly unrealistic.
This is Torero, brilliant man, and made a lot of amazing concepts. It inspired me to get out the Anglosphere with this podcast, but he was absolutely wrong on this, and he reinvented the wheel. He tried to fit the theoretical wheel to his wheelhouse, which is he didn't have money, so he just tried to pretend it didn't matter. It absolutely does. It absolutely fucking matters. So. Well, we're going to get on solutions in a bit, but yeah, completely co-sign in the words of Mr. David Garcia at that point.
What about Mr. David Garcia?
No, I mean, he loves saying co-sign. I completely co-sign that.
Oh, right. Okay. But number 7, the opposite mistake is believing money solves everything. And this is where you might criticize some of the Andrew Tate follower type people. We all know wealthy men who have terrible dating lives, no charisma, no presence, no social awareness. Money cannot manufacture magnetism. You still need personality, style, humor, emotional intelligence, and social intelligence. So there's 2 conflicting things there, but they're both super important. To pretend that money doesn't matter at all is naive. But to pretend that it's everything is also naive. And both of those beliefs are wrong.
And we have an example of a very rich client of ours, again, shall remain nameless, but he is involved in airport infrastructure, I believe, and he's probably
Yeah.
worth, I'm guessing here, but let's just say upwards of 50 million.
Mm.
But he has a pretty average dating life because he doesn't have
Yeah.
high levels of social freedom. He
Mm.
he undervalues his self-perception, and he
Yeah.
hasn't really developed, like, I'd say, really high levels of kind of banter, rares, like that X Factor
Mm.
edge. He could do, it's all a learnable skill. But that's an example of a guy who's never going to run out of money, still actually a bit of a workaholic, and uses that almost, in my mind, as probably an escapism to actually address this stuff, because he's kind of put it off he's been in touch with us for a number of years, but he kicks the can down the road. So
Yeah.
I completely, yeah.
And he's not a bad looking guy either. I mean, he's
very good looking guy. Very
quite
good.
what,
He's from something guy that seems to be Benjamin Button and age backwards, and still look like they're teenagers. So no, very like ticking a lot of boxes. Apart from this kind of the whole base of the course we did for many years, the edge. He's just missing that kind of that shouldn't I say quite that devil may care edge.
Well, we've worked with we've got several clients currently on who we're working with who are worth multiple millions, like serious, like 30 million, 50 million, whatever, who are obviously struggling in dating, otherwise they wouldn't have hired us. But we've also worked with other people over the years, again, very wealthy guys, and it's just like that. All that's great, but what do you do when you're in the cocktail bar in Bogota and there's the cute, young girl in front of you and she wants to have fun, and you're standing there going, "Oh, have you looked at the S&P 500 recently?" And do you know what I mean? It's like, how are you actually going to make that fly? And people have this idea, including my ex-girlfriend, actually, that the only thing that matters is money. If you just walk in and go, "Yeah, here's my bank balance," then it's game over. And it really isn't. Not in the real world.
Did she genuinely believe, your ex, that the money was the most important thing?
Well, she kind of, I don't know. We did have conversations about this, and she was quite sort of materialistic in some ways, and she did basically, well, she would say about certain clients that we had, she'd say, well, he's rich. Like, where's the problem? And it's like,
that's kind of naivety, isn't it? Because it's not really understanding that women look, we know so many rich dudes who are incredibly fucking lonely, and they can't buy women. They can't even buy women, right? They just don't get it.
That, incidentally, is an example of why sometimes taking dating advice from women is not a great thing, because they don't really understand even what they're attracted to, because
they think they know, but they don't really know.
Yeah. So,
and they have this idea, again, it goes back to the Ross Jeffries point on that talk show, which is just brilliant, which is, I don't listen to what women say they want or think they want. I listen to what women respond to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I watch what women respond to.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. All right. So number 8, lifestyle signaling matters more than men realize. When you meet women, the venues you choose. So is it going to be O'Neill's or Weatherspoons, or is it going to be a nice hotel bar? The environments you inhabit, these all communicate things about your life. It's not necessarily about flashing wealth. It's about coherence. The environment should reflect the man you are. I think that's actually a really good point.
Good point. So, there's a few stories from the crypt here. When I first started doing this stuff, I overplayed that, I think. So I was living in London Bridge. I took women to a place, I think it's called Aqua Shard, on the top of the Shard, or second floor down.
Yeah.
Very nice view. It's so high up. You see the trains going through London Bridge Station. They look like caterpillars. It's that size. So it's a beautiful view. But, for a first date, the cocktails were like 25 quid, 30 quid a pop. It was actually it was creating the wrong impression. And the flip side to that is not take them to the Dog and Duck for £1 a pint. It's somewhere in between. Because again, you shouldn't really be. We do have wealthy clients, and we do actually encourage them not to lead with money. You could take them to, all right, where do you marry this together? It's obviously case by case, but what we're saying is you want to show a cool lifestyle, but probably not overshow it, because then that becomes an expectation. And if you're leading with that in social environments as well, you're probably going to attract the wrong women who are very money focused, which is not actually the key thing either. You almost want the money to be a humble brag, don't you? A bit like, if she just happens to find out you've got a bit of money because of the experiences you take her on, but you're giving her a bit more a bit later. You're not loading it all into the initial reveal.
Yeah. I mean, I quite like these days taking them to these hotel lounges and things like that, nice kind of sophisticated sort of places. And the reason for that actually is, in a way, it's more for me even than it is for them, because it's like, well, if I'm going to go out and do this date, I want to go
where
to
you would be anyway, isn't it? Let's be honest. You like those kind of venues. You're in a suit, you're looking good, you're mature. How would we class your age now? A mature gentleman? Are you middle aged? Like, where do we go with a 50-year-old?
I suppose. Well, I doubt I'm middle aged. I'm probably more like I mean, I think I passed the middle a long time ago, to be honest. But
mental age of a teenager, so it's somewhere married in between. But the point being is, you're not changing for the woman. She's almost entering your world to a degree. Well, one of the things is where you'd be hanging out.
One of the things I do genuinely regret actually about my ex, one of the many things, but one of the things I do regret in a way was the first few dates that we had. This was going back quite a few years now. Was at the Dog and Duck. It was. I did the first time. I took her to some pub. There was an England game on. Then the next time we go to the O'Neills or something like that. And the only reason I did it was because I bought into the whole Torero sort of propaganda about don't leave with money, all this kind of thing. And it doesn't really matter because we still got together anyway. It didn't prevent me from going home with her or anything like that. So you could argue, well, okay, fine. So Torero was right. But looking back now, it's just a bit crap, isn't it, really? Do you know what I mean? It's just a little bit sort of, I don't know. It's not really, because again, I think the important part about that point that I just read out is congruence, right? It should be congruent with who you actually are. And really, is going to a Wetherspoons and watching an England game congruent with me? Not really. So I was almost doing that. I was almost doing that as a pose. I was almost doing that. Was almost inauthentic. You know what I mean? Just inauthentic downwards instead of inauthentic upwards.
So look, there are going to be guys who go, look, I feel actually I'm a bit of a blue collar geezer. I drive the train. Yeah. I do like going to the Dog and Duck, watching the England game. That is more natural environment. So we're saying, actually, as long as it's congruent, it's okay. Or are we saying, no, you've got to be incongruent and hang out in high class venues? What are we saying with that point?
Well, that is a good point, actually.
Look, I think the blue collar worker, to be honest, if it's Anglosphere dating and this is very class based, they probably aren't going to want to be dating the really high end Svetlana who's been used to hang out in the Pushkin hotel in Moscow on a Saturday night, because it's just not congruent, is it? And we both had experiences with family money women, and we're playing out of our range a bit.
Yeah.
Because they're just used to ridiculousness that I just wouldn't, even if I had the money, I wouldn't provide. Yeah. So I think you do, especially in the UK, it's very much a class-based system. You kind of have to play in your remit. Now, when you travel, all bets are off because it changes. Brazil, Colombia, different kettle of fish, really, isn't it?
I suppose it's got to be congruent to you, but it's also got to be congruent to the women that you're looking to.
The women you want to be dating, right? So you've got to select in what they're.
So
what they are.
If you like going to the Dog and Duck and watching the game, and you're looking,
it's going to get millions of punters now, or from the millions watching around the world. There are all these Yanks. Hey, Tusk, where's the Dog and Duck? I'm flying over.
That Tom Harrison guy's going to come back on. So, where is this Dog and Duck? Can you give me the direction?
Please, where is Dog and Duck? No, we're going to find a photo of him holding a dog and holding a duck, being like, Dog and Duck.
Yeah. It's a good point. But I think. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting scenario, but I think if in general we're sort of saying, look, if you're looking to, I suppose we're making certain assumptions here about the audience, because we're basically assuming they kind of like the kind of women perhaps that we like. So we're kind of saying, if you guys want to date fairly attractive, fashionable girls who are in their sort of early to mid 20s, whatever, really you should be considering going to these kinds of venues. I think that's more what we're saying, isn't it? I mean, obviously, there's many women outside of that archetype who you could probably take to. I mean, if you're trying to date girls like our friend in Florida is trying to date, who, emo goth girls, maybe there will be more suited places to them. I don't know, but I think for the type of women that and I think it's fairly. I think probably the kind of women that we're seeking to date or would date it's probably, generally speaking, I think most guys would want to date them as well. I think. Yeah,
there's nuances, aren't there? Because we're assuming the audience is Anglosphere, and I'm absolutely not in the Anglosphere, so I'm applying this stuff to, say, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, where I spend a lot of time. The principles are still in play, but it's nuanced because it's different culture, right? Different language.
Well, most people are. I think most people are Anglosphere, though, aren't they? Because if I look at my viewers, most of them are in either UK, US, or Canada or
Yeovil Town,
Australia. I think.
Woking, Yeovil Town,
Yeah,
Guildford.
yeah.
The Guildford
Yeah.
spectrum, the pedo's paradise. Well, let's Robert Greene that one and leave people with mixed messages to ask, leave them with more questions and answers. What's the next point on the list?
All right. The next point is number 9. The real attraction trigger is trajectory. Women are not just evaluating what a man has today, they're evaluating where he seems to be going.
Yes,
A man
100%.
building something, moving forward, and living deliberately is far more compelling than a man who feels stuck. So,
yes,
yeah,
it's the ambition element 101, isn't it? It's all, if you ask women, I did the question game and I always ask women, and again, you don't necessarily fully trust a fish, but if lots of different fish are saying the same thing, making the same sound, you take heed of that. And I asked every single woman during the question game in my repertoire, hundreds, if not thousands of times, two least attractive traits in men, you find, two most attractive traits. And consistently in the most two attractive traits, they would always say some version of projection of the future, ambition, desire to win, or some lexicon around that. 100%.
Right. Okay,
it makes sense. It makes sense because they're taking on your, on an evolutionary level, they want to be with a fucking winner. Rich Coper, to be fair to him, says this: winners hang out at the finish line and fuck all the women. Or women wait at the finish line waiting for the winners. It's true. Women want the masculine striving. They want to see a guy who's going to Nietzsche it, will to power it, and max his ability out, fulfill his potential. And they want to be along on that journey,
Yeah, absolutely. So number 10, practical takeaway. Something of a practical takeaway, because look, I mean, the reality is we're not careers advisors. Even though somebody was asking us how to become a digital nomad and live in different countries, we're not really here to give careers advice. We're not really here to give business advice. But in general, money will not save your dating life alone, but ignoring it entirely is naive. So at a very basic level, you've got to, take responsibility for your finances, build skills that have value in the market. Okay. And like James always says, it's like basically, what do you have that you are good at or could be good at that could provide value to other people?
But also you enjoy, because you're way more likely to succeed in that skill set if it puts you in a flow state, if it leaves you feeling energized, right? So 100%.
Build skills that have value in the market, create a lifestyle that reflects competence and direction, and then choose environments, so I guess for dates and things like this, that align with the life you want to live. I think there's an interesting part of that, isn't there? Because we say here the life that you want to live. So there's almost maybe a little bit of an aspirational element to that, where, I mean, you hear about people doing this. It's almost like a visualization thing, isn't it? They say, if you want, it's smell the leather, isn't it? Smell the leather in the car. It's like, if you aspire to one day earn a lot of money, it makes sense to spend a bit of time in locations where rich people go. So go to the high-end bar, go to the hotel lounge, go to the rooftop bar or the private members club or something like that, But I think that alignment as well is important, because that's the thing. So when I was taking, my ex to the Dog and Duck, it wasn't really in alignment with me, and it wasn't really in alignment with where I wanted to go either. So in a sense, or absolutely, no, it absolutely wasn't with her. I mean, although the interesting thing about her actually was that she became more. Maybe this happens with a lot of women. She became probably more materialistic over the years that I knew her. So at the beginning, she was quite on board actually with the old Wetherspoons, not Wetherspoons in the evening, but sort of Wetherspoons breakfast. Oh, let's go in here. It's cheap, it's not, and I used to like them as well. And then when we reunited some years later, all of that had gone. And now it was like, oh no, we've got to go to this, we've got to go to this super high-end gastro kind of place, for breakfast. And, where was the meat from? Is it organic? And, all of that kind of thing. And then, the kind of clothes she wear or the kind of places she want to go, everything had been elevated. Maybe that was just her, I don't know. But anyway,
well, the point is, just living in London, I think the cost of everything goes up. Also an age thing, because I think as women get older, they do become more security seeking and a bit more materialistic. I think that's fair as well.
Well, one of the first things she said to me when we sort of got back in contact, before we'd actually started resume seeing each other, but I remember saying, because we were going to meet or something, and I remember saying, oh, we could go for a bite to eat if you want. And she said, yeah, we can, but she said, my taste in restaurants is a bit higher these days, But the thing was, I was like, don't worry, babe, I've got you. I didn't say that, but I was like, because I'd also sort of, because I think when we've been traveling and the kind of experiences that I'd had, I'd started to sort of push my game upwards as well. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'd started to go to these higher end places. I'd started to sort of have a bit of that lifestyle myself. So I was sort of equipped now to deal with that. But in a way, I kind of wish I'd just done that from the beginning.
I think it's an age thing, though. I think as we become more
Yeah.
mature, we just appreciate nicer things, like prefer sitting in nicer venues. I think that just comes with age, actually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, it sort of backfired on me a little bit. Not terribly, but in Warsaw a while back, I took a girl to because I started going to the Raffles hotel bar in Warsaw, which is really nice, and the Hotel Bristol bar as well is really nice. And I took this Ukrainian girl to the Raffles bar.
Ukrainian
and we were
spinner.
In there, and it's sorry,
Ukrainian spinner.
Yeah. And we were in there, and it's all these sort of international, obviously people with money and stuff, whatever. And she looked around and she said, "Why are there so many old people in here?" And I was a bit like, "Oh." But fuck it anyway.
So she didn't buy into it. She wasn't actually
she didn't quite buy the glory of it. But a lot of girls do. Most girls do, actually, even young girls.
Yeah, they like nice stuff. Women like nice stuff, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
And she, look, I mean, it didn't put her off or anything, but it was just quite funny that she came out with that. I was like, oh fuck yeah, I've lost the age. Funny. The age pill. The age pill came in. I was like, hang on.
How old was the lady in question? Out of interest.
Well, ironically, she was later 20s actually. So it wasn't like she was.
Surprising.
But that was an outlier though, because that was the only time that's really happened. I think most of the time, when I was going out with Miss K in London, for example. I mean, she was something. She was like 23 or something like that, and I took her to some similar places, and she was like completely on board with it. I mean, she didn't bat an eyelid. And you go to some of these places, and yeah, there is some bloke in his 60s with a sort of, Russian woman who's 20 next to him with massive Botox lips and stuff like that. I mean, that there is an element of that in some of these places, but a lot of girls are just like, yeah, whatever. They just they like a bit of that old school. What do they call it? Like old money kind of chic,
Equally, I think there's a middle ground here, because when I travel a lot out of London, and I'll take girls not to necessarily a high-end hotel or the Dog and Duck equivalent in Istanbul. It'll just be a cool cocktail bar with a cool vibe. And that's a way for you to kind of middle ground all of this stuff. If you're thinking, fuck, I've either got the Dog and Duck or a 5-star hotel now as my only options, don't think that. There's an in-between where it's a nice dingy cocktail bar, traveling around, and it's quite cool. The waiters are cool. It's a good vibe. You can finagle it. You can spend your entire dating lives in place like that. That's going to cover every demographic of woman. There's no woman who's going to be like, this is shit. And if she is, it's probably a red flag. If you're ever going on a date with a girl and she starts demanding a really high venue, just screen her out. She's got the wrong thing in mind. The focus of the whole thing should be getting to know this man who I find relatively attractive because he stopped me, preferably in the day, and I feel chemistry. So if she starts demanding really high-end stuff straight away, red flag, massive red flag.
Well,
screen out.
Yeah, and that happened to me. That exact thing happened to me with the Latvian girl who I met actually when she was working, because she was working in one of the big department stores, and I met her, and then she would only meet me in Mayfair. It was like absolutely
same. Did we date the same bird? Because I think the bird, was she really tall, blonde?
She wasn't really tall.
Oh, good. Okay, so I had exactly the same thing with a Helsinki girl, and she demanded date change venue, but she was hot, so I stupidly succumbed. It was in my early days. She said, "No, we have to go to Sketch," which is about 18 quid a cocktail, which was fine, but nothing happened, and it's just like, oh, you've walked away with 100 quid bar.
This girl was one of those types. We went to Novikov actually, and
yeah, it's a red flag if they start changing the venue.
Yeah, I met her in Novikov a few times, but she was the one that came back to the apartment that I had at the time, and she was like, "Oh, it smells of cabbages," when we were going up the staircase. Because
it actually worked out with her?
Kind of, but I mean, it was never going to be a long-term thing, because she was, like I say, her ex-boyfriend had been flying around on private jets and all this.
But at least you did it for Queen and Country. You did the old, you got your old boy out for Queen and Country, so there is some success.
I had to do it. All right. Anyway, should we go through some of the
parish notices?
The parish notices, sure. Yeah.
Seems to be quite an active chat. This is obviously rolled the troops. This one.
Should we go from the top to bottom? When's the Yeovil Town boot camp? Coming up very soon.
Ask GV Stabber when it would be. We'll come back to you.
England's a jewel of a country. It's a jewel of a country. Yeah, I'm never going
proceeds to live in the Philippines.
Well, yeah, because he made this big thing because of COVID and the COVID restrictions, when you were supposed to get the vax to travel to certain places and stuff. He's like, I'm not getting that. I'm not falling for the psyop, so I'm just going to stay in England forever. And then he started putting out these videos saying, oh, and England's, everyone goes on about Poland and Latvia and Croatia, but England's a jewel of a country. Shrewsbury, you could do a lot of damage in Shrewsbury. People just don't realise. Anyway, then he moves to fucking Philippines.
With his crumpled notes. Let's go from the top to the bottom because I'm getting confused scrolling backwards, upwards. It's reverse chronological order.
Okay.
So, and I'll find one to begin.
So this lady, we assume she's a lady, Adriana says, do we as women need a lot of money to get a man now? No, absolutely not, would be my answer. What do you think? I think
no, it's irrelevant actually. What a woman earns. I'm not checking out her bank balance.
This is the
whatsoever.
thing. This is the thing. This is the massive disparity because it is a thing for women, and even women who are very liberal and they're not that bothered, because not every woman is like these Latvian girls that we dated who will only meet you in certain areas of town and stuff. It's like there are plenty of women who are very reasonable about this stuff, and they are super cool about it. But even for them, it is a factor. Whereas for guys, I just don't think it is at all. I mean, it's been said, a guy would probably marry some girl who's working at McDonald's if she's, beautiful and she's feminine and she's got a good vibe. It's not going to happen the other way.
In Ukrainian McDonald's and Odessa McDonald's, some absolute worldies. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Flip down to PA sound system. It's a few down, but it's our client. It's our client, Mr. D. Unfortunately for women, unfortunately for men, if she's really into you, she overlooks it for as long as she's enamored with you. I would actually agree with that. I think within reason, like you have to actually live in a house and not be homeless, but there is something to be said for that. I've definitely dated women where the money just wasn't even a consideration for a long time until, maybe the relationship side to fall away a bit, and then it wouldn't even surface as a thing. I actually, would you agree with that, or you think that's?
Yeah, no, I would. I would. I mean, you've got to.
You've got to be able to take care of yourself, right? You've got to be in a place that's safe with four walls, be able to afford an Uber, be able to afford to buy a coffee, but you don't need baller amounts of money. It's true. It's like if your game is on point, we sound like the L game purists here, but if you Svengali'd her well, gamed her well, she's under your spell, you don't need much else for as long as that lasts, right?
Yeah, it is for a period of time. But like you said, when it really comes into play, to be honest, is more when you look at getting married or having kids, because then again, people do.
Then it's not even about you; it's about your offspring, and that is actually important. You shouldn't Svengali that. You should really figure that shit out if that's the path you want to go down.
Yeah. So this is a good point. Remember, if you're in Latin America earning the UK average salary of 35k, apparently that is the average about that, you're comfortably in the top 5% of earners there. In Southeast Asia, even higher. Yeah, this is absolutely true. And this is why travel is one of the ultimate hacks, because we're talking about all of this stuff. And if you guys are sitting in England or you're sitting in the US or whatever, it's like you're thinking about it in those terms. But of course, when we travel, and James travels all the time, I travel, intermittently. When we travel to somewhere like Colombia, all of this stuff completely goes out the window, because we rock up in Colombia or Ukraine and suddenly we're the fucking baller. It's like Elon Musk has walked in. Do you know what I mean? So this is where you can hack the system a little bit, And again, it's not about giving them money, but it's sort of the sort of experiences you can provide aren't necessarily going to be better than probably most of the local guys.
If we just think about our times in Bogota, we're staying in pretty nice hotels. Like most women be like, wow, this is cool. They walk in, and for us, it's just like we'd be staying there anyway.
Yeah,
it's and we're not saying we're spunking loads of money on it. It's just very affordable.
Yes,
but it's just you're right. It's a hack. You can absolutely, if you earn in pounds, dollars, euros, travel to Latin America, former Soviet Union, or Southeast Asia, where typically you would prefer the women anyway. You also then have access to a way higher quality of lifestyle, like way higher. So that's the cheat code. Get out the Anglosphere. If we scroll down to Neil Michaels 8925, have you noticed Have you
That
two,
one,
a
or-
bit below that, have you two noticed change in your voice depth since you've been pumped up on CRT? It's a bit below that.
Oh,
If only I had
yeah.
access to be able to highlight these points. I can't seem to do it.
Mm.
So I don't think it does affect your voice. I think we just suddenly have had, the reason you may have noticed a difference is we've suddenly bought mics after like 20 years of not buying mics. So that's, we sound not tinny, like not robotic. This is actually how we sound. There's a voice exercise the voice coach gives to guys called the chest voice exercise, which I can send to anyone that wants it. It's just, you do it 15 minutes in the morning. If you consistently practice that, then you start speaking more from your chest. That will actually, that's the highest ROI thing you can do. It's free. Send us an email, info@jamestusk or James or troy@realtroyfrance.com, and include your WhatsApp number. I'll send you Laveau's, the voice coach chest voice exercise, 15 minutes in the morning. It makes you speak more from your diaphragm.
Welcome
your chest.
welcome to the seduction community.
What else we got here?
So Sad Peter the Milkman says, remember, money isn't money. 120k in an IT is more than 400k from selling corn or trash collecting. Women like status and money, and sometimes I think they can skip a bit of money but not status. So there is some truth in this, because I've heard this talked about recently, where the problem is you've got a lot of these sort of college, university educated women who don't really want to date white collar guys. Sorry, blue collar guys, even though blue collar guys can often out earn white collar guys. You know, if you're a plumber, you can earn really good money. And with the whole AI thing as well, the blue collar guys are going to be safer probably for longer. So there's even talk about now people who've worked in finance or whatever retraining as plumbers. I mean, how long that's going to last, I don't know. But it's true, because on the one hand, those guys can make a fuckload of money, but it's not seen as an attractive proposition for women dating. So he's got a point here, hasn't he?
He does. And actually, the point beneath that's worth reading out. Matlockization. Maybe highlight that one. Women have been whinging about men needing money for thousands of years. In 2026, she can earn more than 90% of men she fucked in finding a mate. This equality pushed by socialists as its finest. Yeah, I agree. I think the Anglo-Sphere is a mess for dating. I've always said it. I think women are incredibly unhappy now. And I think it is mainly an Anglo-Sphere problem, just to be clear. You're unlikely to go to Brazil, Colombia, where I hang out a lot, Mexico, Argentina, Southeast Asia, or former Soviet Union, and meet women who are consistently earning more than me. And I'm not saying I am baller amounts. I'm comfortable. It's just rare, especially because they're typically very feminine. It's a different world. Although it's an Anglo-Sphere issue, yeah.
Saying that, women in those countries are getting educated, aren't they, though? Because, I mean, I met a woman over here from Argentina, and she'd left Argentina, but she had been training to become, I think, a lawyer, or it was one of the big professions anyway. So
they are into professions, but they're still earning fuck all comparatively to say us, where we're earning in pounds.
What? Because of the currency, you know, they're
just not earning. I mean, I think don't quote me on this, but I think there was a dentist I was dating, a trainee dentist in Sao Paulo, and the top of her profession. Oh no, there was the guy who did my nose surgery. I researched him a bit. Very high end ENT surgeon in Sao Paulo. He earns less than me. And he is considered the top of his profession in cosmetic surgery, right? Wow. And it's like, well, there you go.
So BS Profile says, I can attest my engineering degree didn't change anything with my dating life, but it definitely helped my money situation. I mean, yeah, no,
that's a great point. Great.
Yeah. The problem, look, you seem like a good guy. The problem with engineering is that we work with a lot of guys who are in engineering, and people, I mean, maybe not everybody, but they tend to be quite sort of logical, quite analytical, and those things, you know, great for the work, not as good for seduction, not as good for rizzing women, right? Because you need to be in your emotions for that stuff. And I think that's where sometimes guys have a bit of a disconnect.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with doing a very logical job if it's your skill set. We know coders, engineers, whatever. But the key point is this: you have to work on the other side of the brain, the creative, the playfulness that doesn't come from this type of job, you know. And it is a skill set you can work on, and you need to work on it, because they don't marry over.
Okay. I don't know what else we've got, really. Bristol has been known for old guys and made women since 1901. Really? Okay.
Here we go. Legal automation. That's a good point. Or yeah, do that one first, and then we'll do
if you want a 10 or a 9, you have to work like a donkey and make loads of money. Then you need amazing looks to start with anyway.
So
Well,
forget that. It's just nonsense, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah.
Stavros
Well,
would. I'm not
Stavros
sure what
would
Stavros.
co-sign that one. But what about
So
this
go
one?
skip 2 down, lead automation. I've been living in Southeast Asia for 4 years, and I make north of $200,000. So it's around, let's say, £120,000. And Southeast Asia, from my understanding, it's very low tax. So he's probably keeping most of that. My experience, hanging out high-end bars, clubs just attracts gold diggers. Better to find a girl at the shopping mall. Yes, I agree. But remember, the girl at the shopping mall could also be a high-end model because everyone has to walk the streets.
Yeah.
You know, so, but you're right. If you hang out in very high-end shopping malls versus, say, average shopping malls, the gold diggery ones are more likely to go to the high-end ones.
But okay, no, he's not wrong. But the issue then becomes one about vetting, because when you meet somebody who's very overtly a gold digger, I mean, James already said, if she's saying, "Oh, I only want to go to certain bars, I only want to go to certain locations," just screen her out. So you're right. I mean, you know, we've met girls. I wouldn't say I've met gold diggers as such, but I've certainly met women who, you know, they're looking. You can tell that they're quite commercially minded, and I just don't keep seeing them. I just stop seeing them. So you've got to just be. I mean, it's not like, oh my god, there's these gold diggers, and you're just going to get overrun by them. You just don't engage with them, right? When you see the red flags, stop engaging with them. It's quite simple, really.
A lot of this stuff is just seeing women for what they actually are. So past their looks, which we're all infatuated by, just how do they actually act, right? What are they driven by? What do they start doing in the early stage of dating? Because you're the same, Troy. I don't interfere with that process at all. I just objectively observe it and see what they're about. Because if you start trying to intervene in the early stages, you muddle the message and you try and create them into what they should be rather than who they actually are. So in the opening salvages of the first few weeks or months, really just see how she acts. And if there's undesirable traits there to do with money or other things, just leave. Just go out. Just find someone else.
Yeah.
This abundance, it's an abundance problem, right? You're clinging on to
like BS says, don't flash money and you won't get gold digger attention. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's a balance to this, because we're sort of saying go to high-end venues, but don't flash money. You might think there's a disparity there, but I think there is a way of doing this. There is a way of doing this. You want to signal, yeah, I've got quite a cool lifestyle. I go to cool places. I like nice things. But it's not like, that's a very different energy to, oh, do you want an iPad, babe? You know, that kind of energy. So, or sort of just showing her your watch, or sort of like, you can do it in an understated way, but still showcase to her that, yeah, your lifestyle's cool, but you're not all about the money either. And also, because you're teasing and you're being playful and you're flirting and you're, you're treating her in a man-to-woman way. She doesn't put you in that, oh, this guy's a dumb provider chump, so I'll put him in the sugar daddy box, right?
No, forget it. It's just black cab, shouty nonsense. For final comment from @WalkingNote, 3 up from the bottom. How do you actively not hate the opposite sex? Well, it's seeing women and men just for objectively who they are. We all have evolutionary prerogatives and societal narratives, and we all have different things that make us tick. And it's about finding a woman that's most closely aligned to what you enjoy in life, I think, and has a similar worldview, and that there is some chemistry with. And that is a massive screening process. You have to date, to quote psych hacks, you have to date like it's your job. Like, it is one of the most important decisions you're going to make, is if you do commit long term to someone, or who you spend your time with in a dating context. Is super important. Your time, your attention, your most valuable resources, they're finite. So it is, you're going to have to filter on a lot of, the term is slay a few dragons to reach the princess. That doesn't just necessarily mean visual dragons.
I mean, look at Mr. M.
Yeah, it's just undesirables, right? And unfortunately, you're going to come across a lot of pretty women in life who are driven exclusively by money. But you have to recognize that. And if that's an issue for you, which it should be probably, you have to screen them out.
Yeah, I think they're driven by emotion and energy, yet they never have to involve or learn any frame control. Well, whatever. I mean, leave them to get on with. They've got their own problems. They've got their own challenges, and it's not easy.
It's way harder. I can guarantee it's way harder to be a woman than it is a man.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
we've got it easy, men.
Okay, she gets a load of. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
She gets a load of buffoons in her DMs. You know, it's a bit easier for her on the front end, because it's not as difficult for her to get dates or to get attention. But you know, she's got to lock down a high quality guy, or what she considers to be a high quality guy, within a very short space of time. And there's a lot of guys out there who are fucking her around and who aren't up for anything serious, and that whatever. So they've got their own problems. So don't worry about them. You know, and I think it's just a bit disingenuous, because you know, all of this stuff like, oh, modern women, look at all this. It's like, well, okay, but let's be completely honest here. We're all self-interested, right? all any of us really care about is number one. We want the best things for ourselves. We want to get the best deal in the market that we can get. You know, if you had two girls who were really into you and one was really good looking and one was not very good looking, you would choose the better looking one in a heartbeat. You know, so how's that any different to a woman, right? If she's got two guys, one of them is earning, you know, a high salary, one of them's earning fuck all, and they're both equally good looking, and say they look almost identical, she's probably going to choose the one with the higher income, because why the fuck wouldn't she? You know, but can you honestly say if you were in her shoes you would do differently? No, probably not, right? So it's just, it is what it is. Accept it and figure out, okay, how do I navigate this space in the best way for myself? You know,
that's it. It's just objectively being aware of the game, how the game operates, and playing it to the best of its ability. Not having moral judgment, and definitely not having ego hate if you're not succeeding. Just level up, be better, right?
Yeah,
and play it better. That's it. You get 28,000 moves in the game of life, which is 28,000 respawns every day. You just respawn as your character again. You wake up, the past is gone. You can do whatever you want that day, right? So just play the game slightly better every day.
Calm London Walks is saying that women's fathers used to choose the guy, and then saying women cannot choose a man, they choose chaos, which has been quite convenient for us over the past decade.
For a short time stuff, we're actually actively seeking red flags, aren't we?
Yeah, we've actually benefited. We've actually benefited from that quite a lot. All right, anyway. I think that's probably.
Let's call it a day there. What are your final concluding thoughts on this matter then? Don't be broke.
What? Buy a Bugatti and get the crumpled notes out.
And eat a steak bake in said Bugatti.
Yeah. No, it's just, look, you just be aware. Just be aware of the realities of this stuff. And don't buy into the sort of narrative of these old bald guys telling you online that, you know, money has got nothing to do with this. It's just, it's not true. It's not the be all and end all, but it's not completely unimportant either. That's just not reality. So we have to accept that, and we have to figure out, okay, so how am I going to, how am I going to put myself in a better position financially, but also how am I going to present that as well, you know? So yeah,
presentation's as important, if anything, as anything else, right? Because you can be the guy, and we know these guys with a lot of money in the bank, but just utterly clueless how to take women on an emotional journey. How to charm her, how to engage her emotions, how to create this crazy narrative of you two against the world. That's worth millions in retention value.
Yeah, that's the real thing. That's the real thing. But to pretend that money, or at least, you know, being able to sort of look after oneself to some degree, to pretend that that's completely unimportant is just not true. It's not realistic. And, you know, especially in this day and age where she's got Instagram, she's looking at Stavros, you know. Look, I mean, it's not just his packet, right? He's on a yacht as well, you know.
I want you to get a less Captain America version of Stavros, a more kind of dark triad-y Stavros, because I think this guy's he's a bit PC, isn't he? He's a good looking rooster, but I want to see a more dark triad version of Stavros.
Okay, that's possible. Okay, we'll work on that for next time.
Stavros with an edge, should we say?
Good. Yeah, we'll work on that for next time. All right, guys. So look, if you want to come and do some training with us, which you absolutely should, we've got Colombia coming up, Bogota, Colombia coming up soon. We've got Mexico City. We've got Buenos Aires. Good evening, Buenos Aires. How do you feel?
We've got Warsaw as well. We've got the,
Warsaw.
This is a good use of your time and money.
Yes.
Learning the skill set, which allows you to go anywhere in the world, touch down, and within a couple of days be able to date really hot women using no money. This is a good use of your time learning how to cold approach.
I'll tell you something else about I'll tell you something else about money. Do you remember that guy who we're not really in contact with anymore, but we worked with him, European guy who was going to some high-end things and stuff like that, and he would go to high-end networking parties in Zurich and things like that.
Sure.
And he came to Warsaw a couple of times, and he was one of those guys that, with the best will in the world, kind of thought he knew everything. And he was just getting run a merry dance by all of these girls, wasn't he? And he was wealthy, wasn't he? Or at least he had access to funds, didn't he? He had some cash, and he was just completely getting taken for a ride.
He could not pull a fucking muscle, and he ended up with some 6-year-old like Bint who basically was trying to take it, who was broke, asking for money. I mean, it just goes to show you've got to understand how to play this game, and that's a learned skill by being involved in the market, having your heart broken a few times, and leveling up. So
so just to put a final nail in the coffin of the myth that it's only about money, it really isn't, because
I can guarantee you, we can guarantee from first-hand experience, because we've worked with lots of guys with wealth, and some succeed and a lot don't, and it has nothing to do. The amount of money they have has no equation to how well they do dating-wise. There's really no relevance at all. Don't be broke, though, because that will work against you.
Yeah. So drop us an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamestusk.com if you're interested in any coaching in any of these locations.
Include your WhatsApp number.
Include WhatsApp number.
See you. And so tomorrow's stream they can tune in for. It will be, as usual, at 8 a.m. Sao Paulo time or 11 a.m. UK time, EST. I'm not sure what it is, but it's going to be talking about the dark desires, women's dark fantasies and desires, and where all men get it wrong. So tune in tomorrow. It'll be based in part about on the Billion Wicked Thoughts book, which analysed all of the 1 billion internet searches, pornographic internet searches from men and women, objective data. So if you ask them in a survey what they want, they're not going to tell you, but the objective data bought from the porn company said otherwise. There's archetypes you can lean into. It's darker than you think. Most men get this totally wrong. So tune in tomorrow, 8 a.m. Sao Paulo time or 11 a.m. London time, and we'll see you there.
Indeed. Bye.